Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday 2 o'clock webinar. My name is Chad, and I will be your host as we discuss presentation drawings today in Envisioneer. So before we get started, just want to go over how the webinar works. So what I'll be doing today is giving the formal presentation about presentation drawings, and then after the webinar, and I've completed that presentation, I will open up the question panel, which can be found on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar panel, where you can type any questions you might have, or whether it's during the presentation or after the presentation, and I will do my best to answer those questions live online. Also, after the webinar, I will be sending out an email, and included in that email will be a booklet, and that booklet will be a PDF file that you can take and look at on your own time that covers the different things and the steps and processes that we go over today during the presentation. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So what I've got here is a floor plan that we've drawn up here. So today we're going to discuss presentation drawings. The big thing about presentation drawings, they are used mostly to illustrate design concepts to a client. So you want to make sure that a presentation plan is going to be something that a client can understand, and that's essentially the main focus. You want the client to understand and be presented with the best possible visualization of the project. Usually with presentation drawings, any construction details are left off as well. Nothing as far as construction is concerned is put on the drawings to cause confusion or anything like that. We just want to be able to present a good overall plan to our client so that they can totally understand what's going on. A couple of different things that we can do for presentation drawings. We can insert different floor plan views. Solid filled walls are a very common thing, so we're going to go over that today. We're also going to insert a plan that shows more of a material view, so a 3D or a 2D plan view still, but we're going to show the different materials that show the furniture finishes, floor finishes, things like that as well. Also, we can get into inserting elevation views, different 3D views, and then the different display modes as well. So different, whether it's a pattern mode showing hatch patterns, or whether it's a rendered view showing, again, the actual materials that the project might be built with. So in the floor plan here, just a couple of things I want to do that we can take care of in the model before we go into our worksheet and insert our drawings into our worksheets that we can create our presentation views in those worksheets. So taking advantage of a couple of tools, first thing I want to do is the text option. So coming up to Tools and Text, that brings up my text dialog here. And what I'm going to do is insert some of the room names right here in Model, so that when I put in my different presentation views, the room names, if I've got text turned on or filtered on, I'm going to be able to see all of the different text, and these room names come in those different views. I don't have to type it out in each and every view. So I can start here with the text style. In this case, I'm going to keep it on names. Using room names, it's got a good size to the text. It's got a font that I want to use, so I will use the names text style here. Also on the right-hand side here, we've got predefined labels. So different labels that we might use quite often that we can just simply click and put into our text dialog box and quickly insert into our drawing. Of course, you do have the option to simply type in whatever text that you want as well. But in this case, if I want to highlight the kitchen, I can click on my predefined kitchen label, click on this little green arrow here, insert label into editing window, and that will put that label in. The other thing I got the option to do here in the text dialog is we've got the multi-text insert option. So if I've got a bunch of room labels that I'm going to put in, I can check this multi-text insert checkbox here, and as soon as I place my kitchen label, it will automatically bring this text dialog right back up for me that I can keep re-entering all of the different labels that I want to put in. So with that checked, I'm going to click OK, and we can see that I've got the kitchen label attached to my cursor. So I'm just going to place that down there. As soon as I left click, you can see since I have multi-text insert, checked, it brings my text dialog right back up. The next one here that I'm going to put in bathroom, again, as I insert the label into the editing window, it's going to put it into the text dialog there. It's going to overwrite the original text that I had, the text being kitchen, and now it just simply says bathroom. And in this case, that's going to be the last label that I insert. So I'm just going to simply uncheck multiple text insert, so once I place this label, the dialog will no longer come back up. So click OK. Again, we can see I've got bathroom attached to my cursor here, and I can come up and put the bathroom label directly in the bathroom here. So that's one thing that you can do and take advantage of is the text dialog. The other thing is dimensions. Now when it comes to a presentation plan, sometimes string dimensions or your typical dimensions may be confusing to a client. So usually what you see with presentation plans is just simply underneath the room label, you'll often find just the actual room dimensions themselves. So we've got a quick, easy tool that we can use for that as well. I'm just going to use my zoom window and zoom into this kitchen area here. So to insert my room dimensions so that I have them as a label just simply under kitchen with the actual room size, I'm going to come up to Tools, Dimensions. We've got an option here called Room Dimensions. So when I click on that, we can see it's a little icon change. Lets me know that I'm using my room dimension tool. We can see the very bottom left-hand corner of the screen. It's asking to pick first corner of room. So it doesn't matter which corner you start with, whether it's top left, bottom left, top right. It's just a matter of coming in and selecting the corner of a room. So I'm going to start with the top left corner here at the outside of my cabinets and left click there. Now we can see as I drag away, it's drawing a line for me. So my next command prompt is indicate width and rotation of room. So I'm going to indicate the width of the room. Simply drag horizontally to the top right-hand corner of my kitchen. Left click. And now it wants to know the length of the room. So I'll come down here to the bottom corner of my room, and it will give me the dimensions of that room. So it automatically gives me 14 foot wide by 15 foot deep. Now this text I can also customize to whatever I want. If I just wanted to keep it nice and simple with 14 foot by 15 foot, I could type that in. I can change my width times length label, or my label to be length by width. Again, we've got the option to change our text style. In this case, I want it to be a little bit smaller than the names and actually use the dimensions text style here. So I've customized the text that I'm going to use, 14 foot by 15 foot, and click OK, and we can see that that label will go into the room. So now I can carry on. You can see the command is still active. I could carry on and do more rooms if I wanted to. In this case, I'm going to right click and finish, and this label I want to take and move it. I can select it and then move it to the exact position that I want. So now we've got the kitchen label with a 14 foot by 15 foot dimension, kind of outlining to the client just how big the kitchen is without actually drawing dimensions on and cluttering up the actual drawing itself. So there's a couple things that you can do within the model before you actually start into the worksheet mode and inserting different views for your presentation. So next I'm going to jump over to a sheet. So into sheet 1 here we can see that we've got the a blank title block, and what I'm going to do here is start inserting different views to start the presentation that I might send off to a client. So in my blank title block, I want to go back to my model and I want to insert different views from my model. So that is going to be inserting smart views, and I want to define a smart view. When I click on that, it brings up the floor plan. We can see all of the different tabs within the smart view here. We've got 2D views, 3D views, 3D quick views, elevation views, and section views that we can insert into our drawing. We've also got the ability to select which location, the scale properties, what scale it's going to insert at. All of that different information can be changed and picked and chosen as part of what I insert for this view. The other important thing about Smart Views is the view filter. We can take and use our view filter. If I click on the eyeball here, it brings up all of the different elements that are in my floor plan. So I can take and pick and choose the different elements that I want to show as part of my presentation. So in this case, when it comes to inserting floor plans, what we want to remember with Envisioneer is that each location will appear in Envisioneer. So ground floor, foundation floor, second floor, all of those locations will show up in the drawing by default. We can use this view filter to toggle on and off those different items. So it might be tough to see. If I just move this dialog out of the way, we can see there is actually a foundation drawn here. We can maybe make out the dash lines of the footing. We can see it here within the garage. So what we want to do is turn off anything that's on the foundation. We don't want to see any foundation information. We just want to insert a ground floor plan here. I'm going to start off by unchecking all locations. So by unchecking that, that allows me to pick from this list what location I want to deal with. So when I click on the foundation location, you can see that it highlights. We can see that we've got multiple eyeballs turned on. That means we can view all of these different elements that might be inserted on that foundation. Since I don't want to see anything on the foundation, I'm going to simply click Display None, and that turns off all of the eyeballs or all of the views of all of these different items. Now if I click on ground floor, we can see that we've got specific things turned on the ground floor now. And as we flip back and forth, we can see that essentially all I'm showing is elements on my ground floor location. So we can take even further, now that I'm on my ground floor, and take and filter other things off. So in a floor plan view like this, presentation view, I don't need to show my ceilings. I don't need to show my floors. Footings, they were probably on the foundation location only, but I'm going to turn them off just in case as well. HVAC elements, if we got things like fireplaces inserted, presentation plan, we probably will want to show that to a client, so I'm going to leave that on. Same idea with interior accessories and interior furniture. Again, it's presentation plan. When it comes to furniture, I may want to show the furniture that I've got inserted to show room size, show proportion, and show what it might look like with furniture in the room. So I'm going to leave that turned on. And we can go through the roof. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to turn that off. I don't need to see my 2D roof plan in this view. Stairs I'll leave on, and walls I'll leave on. So I've taken filtered different things on and off on that ground floor plan. When I click OK, we can see the update. We can see there's no roof there. We can't see the foundation anymore. And we've kind of cleaned up this floor plan view that we've got. So next I'm going to take and insert this view. And I can take and place it down onto my drawing screen. Now if I zoom into the floor plan view, one thing we'll notice is the walls here. I mentioned earlier on that usually in a presentation plan we want to make the walls have a solid fill to them so that we can define them as walls rather than as lines. Again, just making it clear for the client to see where the walls actually are. So in this case, the walls are not filled. To do that, what I'm going to do is go back to my model view. I'm going to go to Settings and Program Settings. I've got the option here, Building Aids, on the left-hand side. Now when it comes to building aids, I've got the option here to enable solid filling. So we've got in the wall properties, which I'll show you in a second, we've got a spot where we can actually apply a fill. And when we apply a fill and we've got enable solid filling checked here, it's going to allow us to actually solid fill our walls. So I'm going to check enable solid filling. I'm going to apply and OK that. Now we can see the solid filling inside the walls. if I take and look at the properties of a wall, so I'm just going to select this wall and go into the properties. So we've got these walls solid filled in a black color. If we wanted it to be a different color, whatever the color might be, we can come in here to the properties of each of the walls, and the solid fill gets applied in the Appearance tab. So on the Appearance tab, we've got different components on the left-hand side of the screen here. You can see we've got the 2D core, 2D exterior surface, interior surface, right interior surface, all of these different options where we can enable the solid fill, and we've also got the option to pick a color. So if we wanted to color or have the fill of the core a different color than we have for the exterior surface, than we have for the interior surface, we could apply a rainbow of colors if we wanted to as well. You can see we've also got the option to enable or enable or not enable solid filling to be on a certain portion of the wall as well. So in this case, on this 2x6 wood framed wall, we've got the 2D core filled in with the black, as well as the 2D exterior surface. Just going to click OK and jump back to my sheet number 1 where I inserted this view. So now that we've updated that and we've got our walls solid filled, I can take my view, I can simply left click on it. That's going to highlight my entire Smart View. And on the right hand side of my screen, I've got the option to update the contents of my Smart View. So any changes I've made in my model will take an update when I press that update button. So as I click on that, it takes an update and now applies that solid fill for me. Now the client can see exactly where the walls are. They are defined quite well there because they are all filled with that solid black color. So that's one thing we can do for a floor plan. The next thing I want to show, if we jump to sheet 2, is what we can do with a material view or a 2D plan view that shows our different materials or our rendered objects. So again, just like I did with the last floor plan, I'm going to come up to Insert and Smart Views and define a Smart View. Brings up my Insert dialog. We can see the original floor plan that I had and took and inserted. This time what I want to do is insert a material view. So we talked about the view filter. Beside the view filter, we've got an option here for display mode. So in display mode, I can take and actually use a rendered view. So when I click rendered, it's going to take and change and update to a material overhead view. So in this case, we can see that the roof is covering the entire floor plan. Obviously, I'm going to want to go into my view filter and filter off the roof. So now that I come into my view filter, simply left click on the eyeball. I'm going to apply the same changes that I did in the original floor plan that we put down. I'm going to come up and uncheck all locations. I'm going to check on that foundation location or highlight foundation. And I want to click display none. I do not want to see any objects from that foundation location, only ground floor objects. Next I'll click on ground floor, and again I can come through and filter on and off things on the ground floor location. In this case, again, I'm going to turn off ceilings. I'm going to leave floors turned on because I want to see my floor finishes. So in this case, I'm going to leave those turned on. Footings turn off. Again, HVAC, interior accessories, interior furniture. I do want to show the different material views and what they would look like overhead. I'm going to leave those in. The roof, obviously, as we can see here, the roof is impeding us seeing inside the room or inside the building. I want to make sure my roof gets turned off. Stairs and walls I will leave on, and as we click OK, we can see how that updates, and we can see the different floor finishes. We can see the material finishes on the furniture. We can see our countertop finish. We can see the garage floor as a concrete slab. So we've got more of a material view here. So now I can take and insert this floor plan with the material view, and there I've got another simple view, something that a client can easily take and understand what's going on in our floor plan. So that's how we can insert a 2D plan view with lines and using solid fill on sheet 1. Sheet 2, we took and inserted an actual rendered view from overhead, and we've inserted that as well. The other thing we can do to kind of complement that view, we can do the same idea. If we come in and define a smart view, we can use 3D views as well. So if I take and just kind of flip this view up here a little bit, and the way smart views work is what we see in this view dialog or this preview pane is what is actually going to insert for us. So I'll take my view here. It's already set up as a rendered view, and I'm going to come into my view filter, and I'm going to turn roofs and ceilings off. Leave everything else turned on. In this case, I do want to see my foundation wall. It's all a part of the view. I want to see my footings. I'm going to leave those turned on. And when I click OK, we can see that update, and we can kind of get more of a 3D overview of our rooms and how they're laid out in our floor finishes. So if I take and insert a view like that, we can take and add it as part of our presentation plan and add this in as well and kind of complement our overhead view. Now this view is a little bit small. We might want to scale it. If I select it and right-click, got an option here called Scale. The way Scale works is it wants us to pick a point that it's going to scale around. I'm going to click kind of in the center of the image here, and it wants a scale factor. I want to scale this up to be 2.5 times the size. My scale factor will be 2.5, and I click OK, and there we can see how we can put those two different views on there. So that's dealing with floor plans. The next sheet, I'm going to go to sheet 3, and I'm going to start and insert a couple of elevation views of our building. So again, I'm going to come up to Define Smart View. So we've got a couple of options. I can use this button here, or I can come to Insert, Smart Views, and Define Smart View. In this case, we've already dealt with a couple of different 2D overhead views. We've inserted a 3D view. In this case, I want to insert an elevation view. So I'm going to click on the green square with the black triangle. That's my elevation view type. And I'm going to take and insert an elevation view. I'm going to center this up. So again, what we see in this view is what's going to insert for us. A couple of settings here that we might want to deal with so we can set our scale. Datum lines. So when it comes to datum lines, that's a new feature for version 11 where we can actually have our elevations and our different heights inserted when our elevations get inserted. In this case, if we're dealing with a presentation plan, again, that's some information that just might confuse a client. Hey, what's this on here for? They just want to get a general idea of what the front of the building in this case is going to look like. And take and turn datum lines and turn them off, set them to no, do not include my datum lines. Display mode, just like before, I'm going to come into my display mode. We've used the rendered view. In this case, I'm going to use the pattern mode. So each of the elements that are inserted here, the concrete wall, the brick wall, the roof, they've all been assigned a pattern to them. So in this pattern mode, it brings out and shows those patterns so we can get kind of an elevation view with showing all the different hatch patterns, what each material is in more of a line drawing rather than a rendered drawing. Coming into my view filter again, it's good practice to come into the view filter and turn items off that you aren't going to see just because there's so many elements that would need to be generated, and it goes through the calculations of creating the line work for all these elements, even if they are hidden. So in this case, I'm going to come in and turn appliances off, turn cabinets off, ceilings and floors. None of this we can see in our elevation view, so I'm going to turn it off. HVAC, interior accessories and furniture, plumbing fixtures, stairs and ramps. So simply just have my footings, roofs, and walls turned on. The other thing we can do is turn on the terrain. If we want to show kind of where our grade line is, we can turn on terrain and click OK. So now we can see our terrain line, and our view is still all of the same. We've just got some items turned off. Again, when I'm ready, I can go ahead and click Insert, and that will allow me to insert my elevation view. So now we've got a 2D line drawing view showing all of the different hatch patterns. If I just kind of zoom in tight here, we can see the concrete pattern for the foundation wall. We can see a brick pattern for the brick walls, and we can see a shingle type or a roof hatch showing where the roof is as well. So just like that view, if we wanted to insert a different type of elevation view, maybe we want to show a rendered view, again, we can take and insert different views, a different display type, and turn items on and off if we want. If I come up to Insert again, Smart Views, I want to define a Smart View, so I'm just taking all of these different Smart Views from that same single model that I draw. I'm just generating all of these different views, matter of different display types and different elements that I'm turning on and off to create the different views. Define Smart View, we want to do an elevation view. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Again, what I see here is what I'm going to get. Now this time what I want to do is change my display mode, and I'm going to insert it as a rendered view. So now we can see the actual materials. The shingles look like a shingle. The siding in the gables looks like a shake siding. The brick looks like brick. So we can insert this material view again, just better defining to the customer what they might actually be getting in the finishes on the exterior of the home. Another handy little display type here is the rendered outline option, where it's the same rendered view, but it will actually outline all of the different elements and kind of accentuate where different protrusions in walls might be. You can see the grills and the windows, those types of things. So that's a nice little view that you can also include as well. So in this case, I'm going to leave that rendered outline view. I'm also going to come into my view filter, and like I said, good practice to turn off all of the things that are hidden in behind. Simply click the eyeballs, and that's going to turn the elements that we're not going to see off. Elements on terrain, I'm going to turn my terrain on again so that I can see where that grade line is. Click OK. And there we can see a nice outline view showing the finished materials of the house. And when I've got everything set up properly, go ahead, click Insert, and we can take and insert that view onto our drawing as well. And lastly, if I come to our last sheet here, what I want to do, one other thing that we can do, so back on sheet 2, we inserted a 3D view, just a simple 3D view that we went into using our 3D camera. We've also got the option to do a rendering. So back in the model, we've talked about rendering before. We can take and go into a 3D view, this 3D perspective, for example, and come up to View and render a 3D real view. And what that rendering is going to do is give us shades and shadows, give us more of a true representation, more of a photorealistic image of what the building might look like. So what I did was actually create a quick rendering of the outside of our building here. And if I jump back to sheet 4, I'm just going to show how we can take and include that rendering as part of our presentation set of drawings as well. So instead of defining a smart view, it's not something that we're going to pull from the model, but instead it's an actual picture that I saved. So when I did my rendering and it completed, I saved it as a picture, and I'm just simply going to take and import that picture into this view so that I can have that render as part of my presentation drawing set here. To do that, up under Insert, got an option here to import image, and that's simply all we're going to be doing is importing an image. I can take and find that image. It's in my documents here. We can see presentation drawings. Go ahead and click Open, and that brings up the import dialog. So in here we can come in and change the sizes around. In this case, I'm just going to leave it the exact size it was. We've got a crop box that if we wanted to crop this a little bit, we could. So if we wanted to take out a little bit of the grass, maybe not make it quite so deep, we've got the option to insert a crop box. So just clicking 2 points to define the outline of a box. And the other thing we want to worry about here is the dimming slider. So by default, this is set to dim 30%. Usually when we're inserting, whether it's a PDF or a picture or a CAD file, we want to have it come in at the true color that it was created in. I'm going to take this dimming slider and slide it back to 0 to not dim this image at all. Now that I've got these settings set, I can go ahead and click Insert, and we can see there is an inserted image, and that rendered image, we can see the shades and shadows that are created in that rendering, and it's just more of a photorealistic image. Now this one I didn't do on such a high quality, I just quickly ran one, but with the higher quality settings you can get a really good rendering that you can include. In this case, this rendering is just a little bit too big for the page. I'm going to select it and right click and use my scale option again. Kind of pick a point in the center, and I want to scale this down to 3/4 of the size. And there we go, that fits nicely. I now have a nice rendered image as part of my drawing set. So that's what I wanted to cover today. Just to review, we talked about what a presentation drawing is for. It's to illustrate to your design concepts to a client. The main focus is to ensure the drawing highlights key areas of the design and that the client can understand the drawings that are being presented to them. And with that, we don't usually include any construction details. So we talked about a couple of things that we can do at the model stage. We can import our room labels as well as use our room dimensions to put in the dimensions of each room. And then we started and we went in and into our worksheet, defined a couple of different smart views. We created some 2D plan views, one line drawing, one showing rendered view that showed our materials. We also complemented that with a 3D view that we created. And then we came in and did some elevations where we put an elevation in a pattern view showing hatch patterns. And then we also created a separate elevation view in a rendered outline, just giving a little bit different texture and feeling for the client to be able to figure out what the project's going to look like. And then we've also created a rendering and inserted that rendering as part of the drawing set here as well. So with that, I'm going to open up the question panel. Feel free to type in any questions that you might have, and I will do my best to answer those questions live right now. Okay, I don't see any questions there, so I will leave the panel open for another minute or so. While we're waiting, I just wanted to mention again that I will be sending out an email after the webinar some point this afternoon. And included in that email will be a PDF file that goes over these presentation drawings and the different settings that we used here that you can take and look at on your own time. Also included in that email will be a username and password for the webinar archive. So all of these webinars get recorded, and eventually we do get them up to the website that you can take and look at them on your own time. So I still don't see any questions there. Again, I will leave the panel open for another couple seconds in case somebody is trying to get a question typed in there. Okay, so still no questions. Hopefully that means everyone's got a good handle on how to do presentation drawings, what presentation drawings might include, and how we can make a client visualize what their project is going to look like. So with that, thanks everyone for joining me today. and hope to see you next Tuesday at our Tuesday 2 o'clock webinar. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.